That looks better. Hi, everybody. We are live right now. Of course, Craig Peterson here, your host today. I have been doing security work for on the internet for 25 years. I've been on the internet itself for wow, 35 years, actually a little bit more now. And I started out because in security because I had a whole bunch of internet clients. I was doing email way back when. I built some of the very first websites that were out on the internet, period. So that's kind of an accomplishment if you ask me. Some of the biggest ones out there, you might have heard of some of them. I did some of the travel stuff for Delta Airlines and USAA. I did big yellow pages, right? GTE Super Pages, kind of took that business over. About Vivendi International. So I've done a lot of stuff over the years, and I've had some serious problems with my business and security. So probably I think I might be a lot like you. I have become the de facto security expert and have been providing security now for businesses for a lot of years. And we help businesses online, not online businesses, because there is a difference. We help businesses online with their security. So we're talking about doctors' offices, we're talking about manufacturing companies, multinationals, all the way on down through smaller businesses that might have to have DFARS compliance or ITAR compliance or HIPAA or PCI. There's so much compliance nowadays. So that's what we've been helping businesses with. And I've got a team of people who help me out with building all of these different things for different businesses depending on what they need, and trying to keep costs under control and security at a high enough level that they don't lose their businesses. Because frankly, if you have to have DFARS or ITAR compliance and you don't have it, there's a 10-year jail sentence behind that one. If HIPAA, there are major fines, PCI, major fines. In fact, in both cases, you can go out of business. So nowadays, when we're talking about security and regulations, we're really talking about pretty much every business out there, soup to nuts, without a question. Because if you have a single employee, you have HIPAA problems, bottom line. If you take credit cards, you have to be PCI compliant. So there you go. There's two major sets of regulations that are required for pretty much every business in the country. And then on top of it, you don't want to lose your intellectual property. You don't want to have any customer records stolen. You don't want to have any personal information revealed. Right? So you and I were in this boat of how do we protect our businesses? And one of the things we hear about a lot are VPNs. And I've been hearing ads. And I was talking to my wife about this just today, in fact. This ad came on. We're listening to the radio, and on the radio came this ad for a very big player in the security space. They've been around forever. They sell antivirus software that's pretty much ineffective, and they're now selling VPNs. And if you buy their VPN, you get their their wonderful antivirus software to go along with it. And it's only starting at $3 a month. So that's what we're talking about this week. What are some of these things that are called VPNs? What are the features? What should you be looking for? We've already talked about encryption and that part of VPNs, and you'll find that if you scroll back a little bit in my videos. End to end, what does that mean when it comes to encryption? Today, we're going to talk about stopping prying eyes. And we've got two more of these videos I'm going to be doing live, and appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up right now. Let me know you are there. And I would really, really appreciate that. It also helps get these videos out. And by the way, you guys are in my stealth program because I have not announced to the world that I'm doing these yet. So you get more access to me right now than normal. And this is live. We are right now 5:10 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will take your questions. So by all means, do try and drop things in there, and I will answer them. So today it's all about stopping the prying eyes. So let me just pull this up here on my screen so I can see what you guys are saying. But prying eyes are who? And that's where we're going to start today. Prying eyes are people who want to know where you're going, what you're doing. So first off, when it comes to businesses, in most cases, employees have no expectation of privacy. So if you're using a computer at work or you're using the Wi-Fi network that's there at work with your own device, you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy because your employer needs to make sure, well, maybe that you're working, right? If you go way back in the basics of management theory, right? To make sure you're working. But in reality, they're very concerned about private data sneaking out. They want to make sure that your personal device, whether it's a cell phone or a laptop, does not have a leak on it, where you have client records, client contact information that might be going out to a bad guy, unbeknownst to you. They want to make sure you're not going to a website that's known to be one of these bad websites out there. And when I say bad websites, I mean bad websites. Nowadays, it's absolutely crazy what's happening with the bad websites. You have drive-by downloads. Now they're running a special JavaScript that runs in the background. Have you noticed now you go to a website, many of them have a little box that pops up and says, hey, can I send you messages? I'll send you the latest news. Well, sometimes it's not the latest news. What they're doing is installing kind of a mini application on your browser. Your browser is going to run, and it's going to do crypto mining, or it's going to try and break password encryption. It's going to do all kinds of bad things. So your employer doesn't want any of that stuff coming into their network. So they're also monitoring what's coming in. And in order to do that, as I explained earlier in the week, they might be using what's called a man-in-the-middle attack. But your employer's prying eyes, that's probably not something that you can stop if you're at work or if you're using a business device. If the company owns that device, there's probably mobile device management, which is available for our smartphones. It's also available for our laptops and various other devices that are out there. So whose eyes can we stop from prying when we're talking about VPNs? Well, one of them, and this might be important to you if you're concerned about being monitored from a marketing standpoint, one of the people who are watching, one of the people who's watching what you're doing is your ISP. Your ISP is people like Comcast. It might be people who are providing you cell service like Verizon, any of those guys. They are watching what you're doing. I was really shocked once because I was having some problems connecting to the VPN that we maintain at our office. And I called our cellular provider because it was over the cellular phone. I was trying to use encryption, VPN, over the cellular network. Now, LTE and 5G both have encryption built in, but there are ways around it. So I wanted to make sure that everything I was doing with the office, when I was looking at budget sheets and account information, I wanted to make sure all of that stuff was secure. So when I called up my cell phone provider, I found out that they had a record of every place I had gone on the internet from my device. Every place. It had all of the email servers that I had talked to. It kept track of the ports that I was connecting to. In other words, the services that I was connecting to at those servers. So it had all of the services. It had all of the servers. They knew basically what I was doing, even though I was using SSL, even though I was using encryption. So if you don't want your internet service provider to know where you're going, a VPN can come in handy. You can stop those prying eyes. Now remember from earlier in the week when we talked about VPNs, I pointed out how it's from end to end. So if you have a VPN provider that you're using, let's say it's at your home in this case, the data is going to be encrypted and your internet service provider won't be able to monitor what you're doing. So that's a very good thing, right? And at least in this case. Well, once it gets to the VPN, endpoint on the far side, now whoever has that endpoint can, will, and many times does monitor exactly what you're doing, exactly where you're going, and that's probably not something you really want. I would think, anyways, you probably don't want that. So, how do you deal with that? Well, the bottom line is you don't. And that's why, why I have that VPN at my office, because I don't really care if my internet service provider for the business knows what sites I'm going to. What I don't want to have happen is I don't want the internet service provider to be able to break in and hack and watch what I'm doing. So for that, I'm using what you could classify as a VPN between my browser and the server I'm trying to connect to. In other words, I use SSL. I use HTTPS, which you probably do now as well. So one of the browser plugins you probably want to get is called HTTPS Everywhere. And HTTPS Everywhere, what it does for you is when you try and connect to a website just via a normal web connection, it'll check to see, does that website have a secure connection? Oh yeah, it does. So what it does at that point now is it redirects you and it sends you to the secure connection. Think of that like a VPN because it's the same type of thing. Your data is safe going from your browser all the way through to the bank or Facebook or whatever site you're going to. Now, your internet service provider knows that you're going to your bank. They know that you're going to Facebook, but they have no idea what you're doing on the website because of that little VPN known as a secure socket layer, known as HTTPS. So when it comes to prying eyes, there are different levels. There are the prying eyes that just want to know, where are you going? How long did you stay there? And what services might you be using over there? And in most cases, people aren't messing around getting really complicated. They're just using a web service on that remote site. The other type of prying eyes are people like the NSA and the bad guy hackers. Now, the NSA might think it's worthwhile to try and get into your communication stream if they're not sure who you are, maybe you're not legit, maybe there's a problem here. But the odds are, if they really want to see what you're doing and where you're going, the odds are they're just going to put some software on your computer. They're going to gain access to it when you're asleep at night, or they'll do what China does, which is you're in a hotel, you're in your hotel room, and you have your phone on the nightstand or your laptop there, and they have been caught sneaking into people's rooms in the hotels and installing software that lets them monitor what's going on, where are you going, what are you saying, what are you doing. That's the easiest way for the bad guys to get access to your data, particularly if you're using, the HTTPS, that secure socket on your browser. So that's the basics of what I would recommend. Use HTTPS. Now, as far as the VPNs themselves go, if you're a business, make sure you've got a VPN that your people can use, all right, so that they are able to connect directly to you. You want to be careful because that VPN that they're using could be used to piggyback into your corporate network. So we're really careful when we set these up so that remote users have more restricted access. We use what's typically called a zero trust policy to just start with, and then we move from zero trust on out, depending again on the circumstances. You want people to be able to get their work done without too much trouble. But not worrying about that zero policy right now. What we do have is the ability to connect to the office network and then go out from there. Some of these home routers that you have in your house and in your small office, home office, they have some of them have some VPN services so that you could connect to your home router as well when you're on the road. And frankly, that's probably the safest way to go. Your ISP, whoever it is, your cable company, the telephone company at home, whoever's providing you with internet access, they're already watching everything that you're doing at home. So, while you're on the road, why not, right? Now, some people also use this so that when they're in a foreign country, they can gain access to US-based services. and it looks like you're coming from the US, because if you're using a VPN at your home or using a VPN at your office, it looks like you're at your home or your office. So tomorrow we're going to get into this in a little bit more detail. We're going to talk tomorrow about my recommendations. What should you be using for one of these paid VPN services? What should you be using at home for a router that provides VPN services? And then my recommendations for businesses as well. So that's all tomorrow. Make sure you drop into the channel here. Any questions that you have, and we'll be more than glad to answer them. And you can also email me directly. And if you want my quick start guide, hey, no problem if you don't want it. A lot of people find it very helpful. This is a guide that gets you going on the road to security. And you'll find that right on my website as well at craigpeterson.com/quickstart. So have a look for it right there. And if you don't want to put your email address in and get my weekly newsletters, I get it. That's fine, okay? No pressure here. But it's there for you if you'd like it. craigpeterson.com/quickstart. Tomorrow, recommendations, and then Friday, we're going to talk about the drawbacks to VPN and when you should never use a VPN. So that's coming up Friday, and then we have tomorrow. Also, by the way, let me know when you think the best time for me to do these lives are. I'm trying a few different times during the day so that we can kind of, I have an idea of what works best for you guys. And of course, we're leaving them up as a video so that you can watch it anytime. You can go back and watch some of the prior ones as well. So take care, everybody. Thanks for being with us. And we'll be back tomorrow with more about VPNs.